All right, let's go ahead and get started. Talking about, if you're in the right session, meeting students where they are, as we talk through today how the pandemic and the advent of increased attention on AI has affected today's college students. So 4 of us are going to be presenting today from Clarivate. I'm Rachel Legary from Content, Stephen Kemsley from UX, and Justin Gwinnett and Rachel Kessler from Product Management. So as our title suggested, we are going to be focusing on user workflows in this session. So we want to start by introducing Zoe, our typical undergraduate college student. She is 20 years old. She's a sophomore at a major university, and she has recently decided to major in sustainability because she's heard there are good career prospects in the field. And that fact feels increasingly important because even though it's the beginning of the semester, she's already exhausted from a full course load, in addition to waiting tables 30 hours a week across town. And as she thinks about all of the work and the money that stand between her and her future career as a climate and energy analyst, she feels the familiar surge of anxiety. It's almost midnight. She has to choose a research paper topic by tomorrow. She has no idea where to start. Her professor's never available when she is. So she picks up her phone and opens TikTok and thinks, maybe there's something here about sustainability topics that will earn me an A. Let's now move to our typical graduate student, Nico. At 33, he's been teaching 5th grade for the last 10 years, but recently had a baby, and his income, even combined with his wife's, is no longer enough. So he's decided the quickest way to get a substantial bump and to stay in his field is to become an elementary school principal. So he started a master's degree in education, and he recently encountered a fight among some of his students. It was disturbing, prompted him to want to study school violence this semester. But in the half hour that he has between finishing lesson plans and his baby waking up from a nap, he needs to narrow his research topic down, and all he's managed to uncover is how much research has been done in this area. He knows that he's supposed to contribute something new and valuable to the conversation, but no one's really told him how to do that. And overwhelmed, he picks up a crying baby, opens the fridge, and tries to figure out what to make for dinner. So although these are fictional narratives, they highlight the trends that we found in our original UX research and supporting sources regarding student characteristics and attitudes and experiences. So to begin with, we'll start with a fact that I'm sure everyone in this room is aware of, which is there's been an overall reported decrease in student mental health since the pandemic. And this is compounded, before we get there actually, just to give an overview of how we got to some of these conclusions. So our research was driven by key questions regarding impact of the pandemic and AI, among other factors on workflows and student learning patterns and teaching patterns among faculty, students, librarians. And we drew from dozens of interviews and hundreds of surveys across those roles in UK and US colleges and universities over the course of the last year. And the AI stuff, we did a recent update actually just this month. So mental health stuff, decreasing mental health since the pandemic, which is compounded by increased financial pressure that students are facing, which leads to, among other things, increased working hours. And work conflicts, as well as the growing availability of online lectures, are some of the contributing factors to faculty reports of increased absenteeism. Students also are reported to be increasingly distracted during class, and just overall have decreased enthusiasm for learning new ideas and for engaging in rigorous learning in general. And this decrease in engagement can be partially attributed to maybe just approaching coursework as checking off a requirement for a future program or career. Financial factors also affect student preparation levels. So there's a growing perception that the value to cost ratio for a degree is not what it once was, and that leads to decreasing enrollments, which in turn puts pressure on institutions to lower admission standards, which leads to a decreased level of preparation among the student body, and the cycle continues. And this is true especially in the areas of math and writing, and it holds across all levels of education up through graduate school and PhD programs. And that the decreased preparation, in addition to that increasing attitude of sort of transactional nature of education, contributes to this feeling of entitlement to learning, of expecting faculty to deliver knowledge through very structured assignments, which often tend to also be less rigorous assignments. And meanwhile, against this backdrop, students have higher expectations for getting good grades for these kinds of assignments. And again, this holds up to the highest level. The quote here is actually relating to PhD students. With that, I will hand over to Stephen to talk about some specific challenges related to the research process that students are facing.
Question, are you going to be sharing these slides?
Yeah, we can certainly share them. We'll figure out how to make that happen.
Thank you, guys.
Yep.
Take a picture of
Okay.
everyone. I didn't know if I
Great.
could do that or not.
Yeah, we'll definitely share them. So I'm going to talk a bit about specific challenges that students face and get into AI and how that's affecting things as well. So something that came across in our interviews is that research remains a key challenge. I think it will be for forever, even though we have all these great AI tools now coming out that help with certain parts of the research process. Research is really what that is just so many different dozens of skills that you need. And you can't really just put it in a box and say, we can help research. We can help certain aspects of research with AI, and certain aspects are still very challenging. Another factor that came across in our interviews that our interviewees really wanted to get across is, we call people in school now digital natives, but that does not mean that they're technology experts. And kind of in the popular media, those are often synonyms like, oh, they're digital natives, they know how to do everything. And while they're good at what they know how to do, using phones really adeptly, social media, technology they're familiar with, it doesn't necessarily translate to using complex technology in other realms where they're not familiar. And that's really important for us to consider when we're designing databases that, students might never have used, or if they're learning new technologies like coding, for example, they're just not going to pick that up just by dint of being a digital native. In our surveys, we asked about challenges throughout kind of a typical research essay, literature review workflow. And when we ask people to kind of check any box that is a challenge, we find that about a third check every box. So not any individual, but it doesn't tell us much when we look at it in terms of which of these stages is challenging. But when we ask what is the most challenging, we see some trends pop out. The biggest challenge that was identified by students in the survey that we ran was writing a paper. Probably not surprising. It's a huge challenge for really anyone. But another interesting trend that came out is a lot of the biggest numbers came earlier in the research process. So evaluating the quality of sources, keeping track of sources, choosing a topic. And then I thought the fact that collaboration was listed as the #1 challenge for 13% was pretty striking, and just shows you that that's a research skill that probably not many think of as a research skill, but it's really important, of course, in group work to know how to interact with other people to get stuff done. We use the same steps of the process and asked where people are using AI currently for school and research. And we recently just updated these last month, ran an update of the survey and found these numbers, so they could check any of these steps where they use research, or they could write in their own answers as well. And we found a lot of the use is downstream in the research process, so, like revision, getting help with writing, grammar, getting suggestions for improvement. but it's, used at other places as well. Choosing a topic was a key challenge. It's also where a lot of people are using AI, so that was encouraging. And then finding sources of information jumped out at 44% saying they use it to find sources. And it's not on the slide, but we asked people what tools they use, and almost everyone used ChatGPT. And there's some people use other tools as well, but that's by far the majority of tools. And we all know, in this librarians, I'm sure you know that, you can ask ChatGPT for sources and it will come up with credible sounding sources, but a lot of them might be made up. So that's kind of interesting and maybe a little concerning as well. But looking at these two graphs, for us, we can kind of ask ourselves the question, where are there challenges where AI might help, where it's not currently? And so that it helps us guide our future development. We also asked how often students are using AI tools for school and research, and got a pretty big spread with 21 saying they never use it, 12% saying they use it all the time, and then a big number in the middle. When it comes to explaining why it's not more heavily adopted, I wonder if it's related to the other statistic here, the confidence. 54% say they're confident using AI, and that's about half that are not very confident using it. And it's kind of striking to me as, AI is marketed as like easy to use. You can use your own language, you can ask it anything. It should be easy to use, right? But yeah, there's still a confidence gap in terms of students knowing how to use it, and especially with school research and assignments. Something that might contribute to the lack of confidence could be just the lack of clarity on policy too. So we asked, does your school have a policy on AI that you're aware of? Of the people that were aware of that they had a policy, about half said yes, half said no. And then when you look at the responses of what is your policy, a lot of the students, what they would write in is it's up to the faculty to decide, or they had a fuzzy idea of what it was, but not super solid. And then we have a quote here that I thought was interesting. Just our university says don't use AI, but they also said that we have no way of knowing if you're using AI. So it's kind of this mixed message where our students are really uncertain: can they use it, how they should use it, etc. Well, we asked educators that in our interviews, we talked to a lot of faculty and librarians in particular, because they have this almost bird's eye view on many different students. How can AI help? And their answers fell broadly into these buckets. So things like assisting with outlines for your assignments, how to obviously text correction and conversion, topic development. So some of the areas that they're honing in on here were areas that were challenges that students indicated in the survey too. So I think the people that we talk to are in touch with some of those challenges that students are facing. And then there's a quote here just about students might not have enough guidance about how to do research. As a librarian, you might run a session about how to do research in class, but not all the students might attend, and you can't reach everyone. So maybe this could help in that way, and bridge the gap a little bit for students that might not be in contact with the library. When we talked to a lot of instructors, and the responses, the feedback that we got in the responses kind of fell into three different groups in terms of how AI, how faculty is responding to AI. The first group was kind of this cautious group, and this group might be using blue book exams to make students write papers in class, or they might, like this person, making assignments so complex and have so many moving parts that it's easier just to do it than have the robot do it, as they put it. So they're kind of trying to get around AI. The second group, experimental group, is using AI as kind of an assignment tool. So they might have, like this person here, Scott in communications said that he would have students ask an assignment related question to ChatGPT, have students evaluate the output of that. And then through their evaluation, that's what they would be graded rather than the output itself. And then the enthusiastic group are people that have probably been using AI for decades, not just what we've come to think of as AI with generative AI, but machine learning, things like that, and often the STEM fields. Putting it all together, we've developed a framework that guides our development of products, but I think could be used by probably librarians as well when it comes to evaluating tools, AI tools that they might be thinking of integrating into their tool set. So credible, inclusive, transparent, and educational should be kind of the qualities that AI tools should have from the perspective of people that we interviewed. So is a tool credible? Is it factual? I mean, that's for ChatGPT, if you're asking it how to bake a cake and you get a burnt cake because it gave you inaccurate information, that's, bad, but it's not the end of the world. But if ChatGPT gives you inaccurate information and you fail the paper, the stakes are much higher. And of course, librarians don't want to be recommending tools that are going to lead to student failure, right, for trying to promote student success. Inclusivity was also a big theme. The quote here was just, which I really like, it just accidentally creates a lot of exclusion of content. It's harder to find content outside of the AI highway. How are the training sets biased? There's a lot of concern on inclusivity, and that leads to transparency, which was, if I could make the T bigger, it's probably the biggest factor, and it's kind of a broad category because it's like, how has the model been trained? How is the data of our users protected? What's the effects on the environment? And we've heard, as an educator or someone thinking of sharing these tools, I need to answer all these questions before I can credibly recommend these tools. And lastly, educational. There's a big theme that students are in school to learn skills, so we don't want AI to be taking over and preventing skill development, which is of course a real risk of. So tools that we're thinking of and are building need to walk the line between being supportive and assistive versus taking over the learning for the student. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Justin, who's going to talk about some ways that we're trying to help.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I get to have the fun part of talking to you about how we've kind of taken all this research and learning and integrated into our products, and I'm going to do that through two products. And we're gonna, if you remember a few minutes ago, Rachel talked about Zoe and Nico and their stories as an undergraduate and a graduate student. And we're going to kind of walk through their research journey through two products. So for Zoe, it'll be ProQuest One Sustainability, and for Nico, it'll be ProQuest One Education. And with these ProQuest One discipline products or databases, what we're really trying to do is embed ourselves into the experience of those particular disciplines. We do a lot of working with faculty and with librarians and students just to get a very in-depth understanding of the research process for each of these disciplines. So we really try to embed ourselves in that workflow. But we'll start our story here with Zoe, and she was the sustainability major. Just a pretty standard assignment of having to write a 5 to 7 page paper on a sustainability topic of her choosing. She has to kind of go through the steps and analyze the issue, what are the challenges of that particular sustainability problem, and make some recommendations for solutions. And from the perspective of our discussion here, she has two immediate challenges. The first being, what the heck am I going to write about? What's the topic? And then once I pick my topic, how do I understand kind of the language of scholarship, and in this case, the language of sustainability science. So we'll take a walk through that through ProQuest One Sustainability, which is a collection we launched just last week. And choosing a research topic can be pretty tricky, and Zoe knows that she needs a topic that can be that is narrow enough to meet the objective of the assignment, but is kind of broad enough that she can find enough information sources easily for it. But you also want to make sure you're writing it about a topic that's super important to you and that you want to learn more about. And we heard earlier that Zoe was on TikTok, and between watching kind of like dance trend videos and she was kind of just killing time on TikTok that we all tend to do sometimes. She did do a little bit of digging for her research, and she stumbled upon a topic called urban the heat island effect. So she noticed she's back on ProQuest One Sustainability and notices that on the featured topics area here, there's a topic page on the heat island effect, and she thinks that's a really interesting topic. She's curious about it and is going to click through into figuring out what that is. And she finds her research topic here as the heat island effect, and the first step is to find all this background information about it. What is the heat island effect? Why is it important? And mainly, can I use this for my paper? And for all these overviews in the ProQuest One products, and specifically in ProQuest One Sustainability, we've sourced these overviews from scholarly sources. So in the case of sustainability, we licensed overviews from a set of sustainability science encyclopedias from Springer. So we put a lot of work into making sure these overviews are effective overviews. But for Zoe, she's able to go through the overview. She sees that it's a scholarly source, and she wants to learn more. Her professor told her that she needs to make sure that she's using scholarly sources, and she's able to kind of dive into her topic from this page and really get into trying to better understand the topic and explore it in depth. But if she wants to focus on journals, but if she wanted to, she could use this page for all types of different sources, from case studies, dissertations, NGO reports. We have all these variety of source types collated onto this one page. But for our purposes here, she's decided she wants to dive into a journal article, and she's asking herself, how is this paper relevant to my topic? As we heard earlier from Stephen, trying to understand getting up to speed on the research can be is a challenge for the undergraduate researcher. She's trying to figure out what the research question that this paper is answering. What are the important concepts of this particular paper? And even for the best students, I think trying for them to properly comprehend a scientific article can be really difficult. They probably have to read it a couple times and take notes on it and do some additional side searching to figure out some of the important concepts that are introduced. And here, this is where I want to say this is where we tried to make this process a little bit easier for undergraduate students like Zoe with the research assistant. So on the right-hand side of the screen, at the document view, she'll see this research assistant in all the ProQuest One discipline databases, and we've integrated these various AI tools into this research assistant, and it's there to guide her to understanding and assessing the paper and deciding her next steps. It's not necessarily going to read the paper for her. That's not what the intention is. And so for example, Zoe can use the key takeaways here to understand what the main themes of the article are, what the conclusions are, and to see how relevant it is to her topic on the heat island effect. Again, she has to read the paper again to kind of understand it and get a little bit more, go through that process. But the key takeaways part is really useful in giving her a little bit of grounding as to what the paper is about. But as she's going through this paper, there's a lot of new terms and concepts that are introduced, and some trying to get that language down of scholarship is a real challenge for students, and that's where the important concepts section of the research assistant can be really, really useful. So for example, she's never heard of UCI or the Urban Cooling Islands. And so, that's an acronym and a term she's not necessarily very familiar with. And she's able to use the important concepts section of the research assistant to give her a little bit of guidance on why it's important to this article. And in both examples I shared, Zoe was still doing the work of reading and comprehending the article, making up her own mind as to whether to use it for her assignment. But the research assistant just helped guide her along through that process and make it a little bit easier for her, and giving her the key takeaways and explaining some of the important concepts of the article. And with that, I'll pass it over to Rachel to talk about Nico and the graduate use cases.
So Nico, the other Rachel, mentioned him earlier. He's a graduate student, wants to be a principal. He's got a new baby. Life's a little bit challenging for him. He's not getting enough sleep. He really has no spare time, but he also needs more money, so he's studying to become a principal. He's got an assignment for which he has absolutely no time nor brain space, and he has to come up with a research paper idea and write an annotated bibliography. He knows, as we said, that he wants to do something about school violence, but it's kind of vague. He needs to narrow it quite a bit. And he also needs to get an original angle. He's a master's student. He's not just like writing and doing a literature review. He needs to have his own take on it. And he also, as he's researching and seeing all of this literature, and there's going to be a lot, he has to figure out what's relevant. What is the scope of his paper, and is each article going to contribute to his annotated bibliography? And frankly, he has no time to read all of those papers, even though we'd really like him to. Okay, so his professor points him to ProQuest on Education. ProQuest on Education came out in April-ish. It's our discipline product, multi-format discipline product. He does a search for school violence on the home page. He gets our autocomplete feature, which I just want to point out because it's a really helpful feature if we're giving him ideas of what his topic could be or just how to construct the search. We've indexed everything in ProQuest on Education with the ERIC vocabulary, which helps create a unified authoritative search. If you're not familiar with ERIC, it's kind of the go-to database. It's created by the U.S. Department of Education, but it's known all over the world. They have their own thesaurus, and we've used their vocabulary to index everything. The other search suggestions are coming from our search logs from what other people have previously searched, but he's not that sophisticated. He just really wants to stick to school violence. So he just searches school violence, and he gets way too many results. He's not going through nearly 20,000 results. It's way too broad of a search. So thanks to AI and our search helper feature within Research Assistant, we have a bunch of terms that we're suggesting to him that can help him further narrow his results. So he likes the idea of school bullying. So he adds school bullying to his search, and he gets fewer results, still a lot, a couple thousand. But he knows he's only wants to look at peer-reviewed articles, prefers to only look at ones that are in full text that he can look at right on this platform, doesn't want to have to go anywhere else. So he can further limit if he wants. He also can limit to scholarly journals if that's what he's looking for. And if he wants only current research, and these are pretty standard features across all of our databases, you can narrow to whatever window he wants of time, last 10 years, for example. So he ends up picking the first article anyway. He's really just trying to get ideas for his topic. So he's trying to figure out, is this article going to be relevant? He doesn't even have a topic yet. So he goes to the Research Assistant, and he looks at the key takeaway with Justin also highlighted. And this key takeaway is consists of a short paragraph on what the document is about, then another paragraph that mentions additional topics addressed within the document, which is something that could be really helpful if he's trying to find that topic for his paper. And then another paragraph that explains the relationship between the document and your search, the original search that you conducted. So again, he doesn't really know yet whether this is relevant because he doesn't even have a search topic, but he can copy this and he takes it, he can put it aside for later so that when he does hone in on it, on his topic, his more narrow topic, he can then get refreshed very quickly on what this article was about and assess whether he wants to include it in his annotated bibliography. The research assistant also includes links to topic pages. Justin went over topic pages. I'm not going to do that again. But if he wants to take a slightly different angle and continue exploring topics, he can look into our topic page on violence in schools or gangs. And we've also really tried to support students in ProQuest One education through the research process and understand different methods and just concepts within doing research. So we also have topic pages on different methods or just ethics in research. So in this case, this particular article, the researcher performed interviews. So if you want to go more into that particular way of performing research, you can. We also, again, we still are trying to narrow that into that research topic. Something that another feature within Research Assistant that we have is additional research topics that are based on this document. So we propose 5 different topics that are sort of tangential further research inspired by this document. And we even include a feature where you can then click the magnifying glass and search within ProQuest One Education and get relevant sources to this specific topic. So hopefully this will really help him narrow down on that idea and give him a unique idea. Okay, one more thing that I want to highlight within ProQuest One Education. He does that search, he has his topic. We have a facet for research methodology. So in addition to just coming up with a unique idea for a topic, he wants to come up with a way of doing it, a way of researching it that nobody has done before. So he's going to skim the various values within the research methodology facet. We've indexed the research methodologies within the scholarly content in ProQuest One Education, and he can see what's been done before. Think about what are the strengths, the weaknesses of those methods, and come up with something that's maybe unique, something that someone hasn't done before, or at least pick something that he thinks is the strongest way of researching this topic. Okay, so now I'm just gonna wrap things up a bit, and hopefully we'll have a couple of minutes for questions. So again, we've discussed here 2 of our ProQuest One products, ProQuest One Sustainability, which has a unique interface like all of our ProQuest One products. It's specifically built for the needs of students, educators, and researchers and explores sustainability issues. Features are built around common concepts like the 3 pillars of sustainability and the UN Sustainable Development Goals. It's got authoritative content, the largest collection of sustainability content available today. It's scholarly articles, trade journals, magazines, case studies, and many other things. And then both of these products, of course, have the research assistant that we've both mentioned. ProQuest One Education, I mentioned the ERIC vocabulary that is all the content is indexed with. We have various different types of topic pages, which I really didn't go into depth, but just to mention one thing that we did is we have topic pages on theories, on educational theories, and then also on the theorists who created those theories, and also on teaching methods so that you can understand who the theorist was, how they came up with their theory, and then connect the practicality, take it to a practical level, see the application of those theories in the teaching methods. Also lots of multi-format content with over 1,000 full-text journals, but we also have trade journals, magazines, dissertations, books, videos, and the videos give actual classroom footage, which allow you to see, teaching methods in action, how students react, how to manage a classroom, things like that. We have other, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide, I'd rather hear your questions, but we have other ProQuest One products, including psychology, business, and literature, which are great. And if you have questions on any of them, you're welcome to speak to us after the session. And now,
Yeah, just to end, so we started talking about, these student problems and these fictional student profiles. We wanted to end on some words from actual students acknowledging that we need more than product and technologically based solutions here. We need a holistic approach. And a really crucial element of that is the person-to-person support that students can find in building strong connections with their teachers, faculty, librarians, peers, and mental health professionals as needed. So you can see evidence of students here connecting with teachers during office hours, before and after class, finding support in peers and other resources. So that's of course an important part of the picture. So we have a few minutes for questions. We did want to just open it up to ask for those of you who interact with students, if you've noticed some of these challenges we discussed or others that we hadn't mentioned or anything else that you'd like to discuss.